Hi class, Rod, just wanting to check in regarding what we reviewed in the first class session for strategic evangelism, or what is really a church growth course, and to highlight some of those discussions and some of the things that are coming up in the next class. So we had talked about the fact that in seeing a church grow healthier as well as larger, qualitatively and quantitative growth, that's discussed actually in Ephesians 4 very clearly. There's not one thing that grows a church. It's a good balance of several things that must be worked consistently and carefully throughout the life of the church. We talked about the 100-year study at Yale Seminary about great preachers. They surfaced again. Those two leading characteristics were love for children and humor. Now, love and genuine humor can't be faked. They come from being in love with Jesus Christ, and that comes out in our lives consistently as we're walking with Him, and becomes better being expressed through our lives by coming to know Him better in our lives. Actually, humor comes from the root word for grace, and that's katos in the New Testament. And by our really knowing our need of Christ and taking Him more seriously, we can take ourselves less seriously and learn to laugh at things that do happen in our lives and the dumb mistakes that we pull off so consistently, and rejoicing in the grace available to us to gain His forgiveness and renewed strength every time we mess up, and we do that every day. So it's that love affair with Him, and that coming out to others around us, and the joy of knowing Him, and that coloring our humor and how we express that emotion and attitude with our lives. So again, not one thing but several things being put together wisely and carefully focused upon. That's what's going to be uncovered as we go through these different resources that we're utilizing in this course. Actually, if you were to get into Schwartz's book on natural church development, he would be illustrating those 8 that we talked about and looked at briefly in class. And whatever's lowest as far as actually constructing a bucket, and those being the sides, that's the way he illustrates the importance of all of them being built up healthily, because wherever that lowest one is, that's the quantity level of, to say, the blessings of God that your church can experience, because it's going to pour out wherever that lowest place is, and that's going to determine the level of God's power, His blessings being manifested in the church. So what he's bringing forth through that illustration, that we've got to keep working on all 8 of those things that his research surfaced. Well, I was listening to Howard Hendricks this afternoon in one of his presentations about spiritual gifts as presented in Ephesians 4. He brought up the point that we can have cooperation, but unless we have coordination amongst ourselves wisely and effectively as a church family, all will have is chaos. And the difference between chaos and an army is coordination. And he said one of the greatest illustrations of that is Nehemiah chapter 3, and how Nehemiah brought together priests and business people and all kinds of different vocational gifts to build a wall around Jerusalem in 58 days. That took real coordination and the cooperation, which he stressed, our coordinating our respective spiritual gifts in the church to carry out the objective of the mission of Jesus Christ, being able to accomplish the Great Commission and the power of the Great Commandment in His love. That happens only through great humility. Can we really find our receiving and expressing the spiritual gifts in a coordinated manner, wisely put together, to carry out again the mission of Jesus Christ as a church. So the fact that in a church, I'll just say it this way, I think the matters that we looked at with Swartz 8, some of those things in the Spurgeonic principles, all of those are pointing out there's several things that have to be balanced and worked on consistently. John Maxwell said there were 6 things that he concluded from his years of experience in talking with pastors about what causes church growth. He said first it was prayer, then leadership, then evangelism and discipleship, lay ministry, number 4, 5, common goals, and 6, good attitudes. Those things are needed in a church, and being careful again, cared for, developed, and valued in the local church body for it to be able to be healthy and growing, then with more disciples being added to that church body. Well, I think again, like we talked about, worship is so important. The atmosphere of the church, the matters again of love, and there being real purpose, and there being the opportunity of vision and faith, that we understand where we're going, we know who's taking us there, he's going to use us, we can do his great commission, and he's revealing to us the wisdom of the strategies that match up for our divine local area he's placed us in to reach these people. Those matters, and then small groups that are operating so that there's pastoral care, there's edification going on. It'd be well to insert into those small group practices a spiritual gifts survey that is the church helping people understand they have gifts, what maybe their gift is, and that being confirmed even through the small group experience, and them becoming involved in expressing that gift through different areas of involvement in serving on ministry teams matching up with their gifts. That connectedness as a church and that experience in the small group that happens, that carrying out the 50 one another verses in the New Testament. Then an equipping path for building more leaders in the church. All those things are what make up things that have to be worked on throughout the life of the church, but making sure the focus is developing those so that we can be a coordinated team, a coordinated army of believers, of followers of Jesus Christ to carry out his great commission, doing it in the power of the great commandment, out of love for him and love for people and love for one another, putting us there. Momentum and morale go together, and as people see God's evidences of various ways moving in the church family, they become more excited about Jesus Christ and become more wanting to invite others to church and to Christ through their own lives. So all these things are playing together. Again, not just one thing that grows a church, but a combination of balancing wisely of these in our churches. So I'm so grateful for your digging in to study these concepts, these principles from Scripture. One thing we didn't work on in the first class a lot, but again, when we talk about church growth principles, those are just gleaning out of Scripture the principles that Jesus Christ gave us, that he confirmed to the early church, that the Apostle Paul wrote about in his writings, and then Peter and James and John completing out the New Testament, as well as the writer of Hebrews. Many think that was Paul, but we're not sure for sure. But all that is just, again, to say it's Scripture being discovered for applicational uses. Again, interpretation without application is abortion. And to know and not to do is not to know at all in the New Testament. And what Jesus, especially the writer John, repeated over and over again, real love for Jesus Christ is obedience. So keep digging in. We're coming up in the second class session, extracting from Wagner's book, and then more things from Rainer's Reed, and then also beginning to pick up hopefully some of the things out of surprising insights by Rainer in the next class session. Thanks, and looking forward to meeting with you again. All right, bye.